Story 1. I had a close friend who suddenly stopped talking to me one day, with no fight or dispute. I would love to find out why. Story 2. I was seeing this guy once. We dated for about 3 weeks. He was a friend of one of my roommates. For reasons unknown, he called me one day to say he wanted to break things off and was no longer interested in being with me. Later that night, he called my roommate. They talked for a while, and then I heard her say, "So why did you break things off with tacos?" She seemed upset today. She replied, "Yeah, I can see that. I get it." So I asked what he said, and she replied, "You don't want to know. Seriously, I'm not going to tell you. What was so wrong with me?" Story 3. The version of myself I lost trying to love people who did not know how to love me back. That person deserves closure more than anyone else. Story 4. My former husband abandoned and stole from our daughter when she was widowed at 22 years old. I do not have much closure. I would just like 5 minutes alone in a room with him to discuss his actions. Story 5. My good friend Hannah died last year. Because of my personal problems, I made things awkward between us and lost touch. I wish I could say so many things to her. I wish I could say I am sorry. She was like a sister to me and I made it awkward. This is the biggest regret of my life. Story 6. I was in the first third of a 16-hour night shift on the phone with my mother. It was a mostly uneventful conversation, just setting up plans to go get breakfast at a diner up the road from my house. Before she hung up, she quickly mentioned that she had something important and serious to talk to me about, but we would discuss it over breakfast. I went back to work and finished the about 12 hours of my shift I had left. Then I got in the car to pick up my mother for breakfast. I let myself in through her side door leading into the kitchen, which was a totally normal thing for me to do. I left the kitchen and went into the dining room to see my mother, who was gray-blue in color, not moving, not breathing, obviously dead for quite a while. This was 4 days after her 60th birthday, on the last day of February 2019. We never found any clue or inkling about what she needed to tell me, but obviously didn't want to say while I was working, moving from one task to another all night. It was a heart attack with a rupture of the left ventricle. They told me she was likely already dead before she hit the floor, which was a small comfort, albeit a little morbid. I still think about that conversation we were going to have at least a couple of times a week. I want to know what it was. Story 7. My father left and has never visited or contacted me since I was 9 years old. He is gone now and I will never know why. Story 8. Probably one of my ex-partners. They said and did a few things that never quite made sense to me, and I would like to understand better instead of making assumptions based on my current knowledge. We also had other people spreading misinformation during the breakup, and I would love to clarify the untrue things people told him. Story 9. My dad refuses to speak to me since I came out as gay. The ball is in his court. I have reached out many times, but he refuses. He even declined a visit to the hospital when I was back east and he had an emergency. He has been known to hold grudges. I am the third child he has disowned for perceived slights. The problem is clearly his. I do miss my dad. Story 10. A colleague I was involved with. We spent months talking and flirting daily, really getting to know each other. We finally became intimate, and then he basically ghosted me, limiting conversation to the absolute minimum required for any work task. I know he was probably just using me, but I always wonder if I did something wrong. Story 11. My ex-best friend got a new girlfriend. I was very excited for them and thought they were perfect together, so I tried hard to make sure she felt like part of our group. She ended up telling a strange lie about me to him. Multiple people confirmed that what she said was not true, but that was it. He stopped communicating with me for about 2 years. I never got the chance to clear things up. It honestly broke my heart. He was my best friend in the whole world. Since then, we have hung out very rarely with mutual friends, and nothing has ever been addressed. Now it would feel strange to bring it up, but I do wish there was a chance to. Story 12. My friend committed suicide when we were about to graduate high school. He was a bipolar schizophrenic, so I know his death was mostly caused by his inability to continue. However, Something inside me feels like I could have been there and helped him find real help. He was always there for me, but I am left feeling empty inside. Story 13. I am going back 3 generations to my maternal grandfather's stepmother. She started the abuse and it continued down the line. Story 14. My father. Not anything he did, but I would be able to give myself closure by hugging him and telling him just how much I loved him and appreciated all he did in our lives. Story 15. My brother never left a note about his suicide, and we found no hints. All we have are guesses. We know the big picture reason was that people convinced him his medications were poisonous and that he needed to stop taking them. But the final trigger we will never know. Unfortunately, you cannot force a 37-year-old man with free will to take his medications. All you can do is educate. Story 16. Sometimes the closure you need comes from within. Understanding why things happened and letting go. Story 17. I spent more time on the phone with my grandpa. I was living 2,500 miles away during the end of his life, but he and my grandma were like a second set of parents to me. He died suddenly of a brain tumor 13 days between discovery and death. He had a relatively easy death and spent much of it on medication in hospice, but he started having severe personality shifts. This man was always so kind, gentle, and loving, but the tumor affected his cognition and changed his behavior drastically. He was lucid only a couple of those 13 days, and I only had one main phone call with him when he was aware and functioning. I was busy with a special project in my professional life, so I didn't call every day as I wish I had. His last words to me were, "What the hell?" because he had forgotten how to hold a phone. My grandma passed the phone to him and he dropped it. This was a good and God-fearing man who didn't usually speak that way. He passed away, and then his spirit visited me in a very tangible paranormal experience. I understand this may be difficult to believe, but it gave me a strong sense of permanent closure. Story 18. My dad. I woke up one morning to the news that he was dying outside in the street with neighbors performing cardiopulmonary resuscitation. He was gone by the time the ambulance arrived. If I could, there would be many things I would want to tell him, but most importantly, I forgive him. Story 19. My sister. Why does she hate that I exist and was so emotionally abusive all our lives? We are in our 50s. We are no contact now. I think it is so sad. Story 20. My husband gaslights me, talks over me, calls me names, and tells me I am just mad because I am going to start my period. For once, I would like to tell him how much he has hurt me. I cannot wait to get divorced, and I am definitely throwing a big divorce party. We did not have a wedding or rings, so this can be my big celebration. Story 21. A close friend will never admit he was equally responsible for our mutually toxic friendship. He needs me to blame his depression, but he was more depressed before we met, drinking all the time. At the end of our friendship, he had a successful business. He could never admit he was happy. He could be laughing and having fun, and if you asked him, he would say, kind of, I hope now he has found some happiness and gets help so he doesn't destroy it. Once someone unconditionally cares about him, he hates them because he hates himself. Story 22. My father took his own life early one morning. I was about 17 and had contributed to a fight he had with my mother the night before. Story 23. I'll never get an honest answer, but why did my father have children when he could not commit to being a parent and left when I was 9 years old? What did I do wrong? Story 24. Grandma. She died when I was studying abroad. The last thing she told me through WhatsApp video call was that she was eating soup. She had a stroke a few weeks ago but was recovering and was able to slowly speak again. One night, a few days before Christmas, she passed away. I wanted to tell her so many things, show her pictures of the places I was in, or just say goodbye and thank her for everything, hug her one last time. Story 25. My grandfather was and still is my mentor, even though he died when I was 6. I want him to know I was listening and paying attention. His advice still guides me. Story 26. My ex. I have a sneaking suspicion as to why, but she went from entirely friendly to giving me the cold shoulder. I didn't think she was that capable of acting. Story 27. My best friend from high school and I drifted apart after 10 years of friendship, but never had a final conversation. Story 28. My father left when I was 10 to commit suicide. I have struggled with my relationships with men ever since. Story 29. My mom is deceased, so that chapter has ended. We had a complicated relationship. I was her child but also her caregiver. Those roles do not overlap well when you are a teenager. She was very sick for most of my childhood. She tried her best, but it was difficult. I do not think she ever said thank you. I would have appreciated that. Story 30. My best friend called me and told me he needed to share a secret. He started crying and could not stop. I could not console him. I told him to call me the next day if he was not ready to talk. I also said we could exchange secrets. He just said, "I love you, brother," and hung up. He shot and killed himself an hour later. I wish I knew what to do to prevent it. I also wish I knew what the secret was. Everyone has their ideas, but I want to hear it from him. I miss you, brother. Story 31. My groomer. I just want to know why she did it because I thought of her so highly, and her behavior was not logical from any standpoint other than cruelty. I think knowing exactly what was going through her head would help me stop blaming myself or ruminating over it. Story 32. A former crush. So, did all those dinners and walks around downtown late at night mean anything romantic? Or were you just thinking of me as a friend the whole time? Also, I hope your new love is the one because you deserve to be happy and loved well by someone better than me. Story 33. My daughter. I have not spoken to her in 5 years because of my decision. The problem is, I would not get closure if I did speak to her. Thus the estrangement. Story 34. My mother. If she could just admit she failed me at nearly every turn, maybe I would not have completely disconnected. Story 35. As sad as it sounds, my college roommate died of a heart attack the semester after COVID-19, so I never got to say goodbye. Story 36. Ex-girlfriend from when I was younger. There are no unrequited feelings, and I do not want to get back together. However, we ended on bad terms, and I would like to tell her that I do not think she is a bad person. Story 37. Jesus. Yes, that one. If he is real and out there. No joke. Face to face in the flesh. None of that vision quest nonsense. I want to put my finger through the nail holes and truly ask him about many personal things, prayers, and similar matters. All the other people I hurt or who hurt me, I can find ways to get closure. But Jesus Christ is number one on my list. Story 38. My childhood best friend and I were friends for more than 15 years. Then she suddenly became too busy to hang out with me, but she had all the time in the world to hang out with other friends. We lived in the same neighborhood for a while, and she treated me like a casual acquaintance when we ran into each other. I never found out why my childhood friend basically ignored me. I could ask, but she would probably deflect or blame me. I do not want her back in my life, though. I just wish I knew why she did that. Story 39. My father-in-law. He had his ups and downs, but toward the end, he became a really great dad. My wife and her sister deserved that so much. I did not have a good relationship with my father, so especially after my grandfather passed, I ended up looking up to this man as my own father. He was always a bit emotionally shut off, but I still remember him actually crying and hugging me tightly the day I asked for his permission to marry his daughter, my wife. We told each other we loved each other. Then he promptly kicked me out before he really started crying. A couple of years later, his cancer came back. COVID-19 and weakness from treatment made it hard to see him, and in the end, we never got to visit again since we lived in different states. He passed away 4 days before we were supposed to meet in Arizona. My wife and her broader family were devastated. And though they have had a tough time mourning and coping with the loss, I never really considered how hard it was on me too. It all happened so fast. I was so caught up in helping my wife grieve and making up for the hole in her heart that I never really dealt with it myself. I always wanted to tell him how much I loved him, and I want to show him so many things I have learned. I wanted him to walk my wife down the aisle. He passed away just before the wedding, and I wanted him to hold my future children. I would give anything to see him again. Honestly, The singer of Modest Mouse looks so much like him that when my wife and I went to their concert after her father's death, we both cried. I miss him every single day. Story 40. Back in high school, I was a pretty quiet, awkward, shy girl. There was a guy I knew from the anime club who was really kind, like a genuinely kind person. Prom was coming up, and I persuaded him to take me. He originally said he did not want to go because it was not his vibe, but I convinced him. I do think he had a lovely time anyway. We drifted apart over the summer afterward. I wonder if he actually wanted to go with me or if he was just doing something nice for me. I both do and do not want to know. Story 41. My ex-wife, mother of my sons. We had a difficult relationship, but I would like to give her a hug and say, thank you for our children. Probably will not happen. Story 42. My mum's sister. She behaved terribly when my mum passed, creating a huge fuss about genuinely the most minor, trivial things that caused over half of my mum's remaining family not to attend her wake. I am pretty sure the anger I feel about the situation and events that unfolded has stopped me from properly grieving the loss of my mum. Only her own death will allow the anger to dissipate and bring me the closure I need to grieve properly. If that makes me a bad person, so be it. Story 43. I had a boyfriend when I was 18, and out of nowhere he said he needed a break. He said he would let me know when he made up his mind. I am 34 now, and I still have not been contacted. Story 44. My best friend and I met through work and hung out weekly on our days off. When we started working at different places, we still made time for each other. However, I noticed I was the only one making an effort or putting anything into the friendship unless she needed something from me. I stopped reaching out and never heard from her again. One time I ran into her at the store, and she said we should get coffee on a Monday or Tuesday. I texted her, but both days passed without anything. I still haven't heard from her in several years. I did so much for my friend that I would like to know what happened. Story 45. I would like to finally tell someone that I forgive them for physically attacking me. She is family and was under the influence of drugs at the time. I believe shame is preventing her from wanting to see me or respond to the message I sent a long time ago. I am not upset about it. She can take her time. It would just make my mother happy. If I never saw her again, it would be okay too. Story 46. It's entirely up to them, but I kind of ghosted a friend. I was going to circle back and explain things, but I was blocked. It is my fault and I acknowledge that. If I get a second chance, I will choose getting closure by confronting my dad. Story 47. My best friend, Seth. We met after our friend Jack passed away at 22 and developed one of those soul-level best friendships. We were telepathic, honestly crazy. We lived together a few times, but we also suffered through several more deaths together. We lost an unnatural number of people in our close circle before we turned 30. After Jack's only brother Albie passed away, Seth and I hugged and promised never to die on each other. We needed each other. It was super emotional, especially because we were more "you're the worst, I hate you" sarcastic best friends. My phone rang early one morning and I immediately knew, but I didn't want to believe it. He promised me. We made a promise. It's been 6 years. Yesterday would have been Seth's 36th birthday. I'm not okay without him. I had always wondered how many friends could die before I would crack. And he was the one that finally broke me beyond repair. Story 48. My best friend, whom I upset, is someone I know I will never be close to again. However, I honestly have nightmares about her every day. It would be nice to close that part of my life so I can move on. Story 49. My ex would verify all the dishonest and manipulative things he did. I already know, but it would be nice to get details on how he thought it would work out for him. Story 50. My step-grandparents are deceased. They ruined my childhood. I want to understand why. I was their step-grandchild, but I was still a child. Why me? I am also quite sure the grandfather behaved inappropriately toward my little sister. I would never leave her alone with him. He hated me for that. I hope they face justice. Story 51. My ex ended our relationship unexpectedly over text, which affected me deeply because I had no closure. About 2 months later, I texted her saying it would be good if we could still be friends, but she told me to move on. That gave me the closure I needed, and I was fine after that. Then, 2 weeks later, she accused me of something false and sent me a hurtful message while spreading rumors about me. I had the guidance counselor speak to her, and she says everything is fine now, but I am still waiting for an apology. I just want her to text me saying she is sorry so I can respond accordingly. Story 52. I do not think they would be able to give me it. I am not sure they even know why they do what they do. Story 53. I would say my mother, but we are too different. We do not even share a culture or language perfectly. Hispanic versus American. I am not angry that she was imperfect. I am enraged at how impatient she was. The child in me deserved to be heard and respected. I have grown into an average man. How do I learn what I was not taught? I have said the things I have said. She has apologized for not being perfect. Nothing is healed. Story 54. My grandfather was and still is my mentor, even though he died when I was 6. I want him to know I was listening and paying attention. His advice still guides me. Story 55. My best friend since high school and I had a misunderstanding. In 2021, I left her abruptly without a second thought. I left her condominium keys on her table, moved out without a word, and blocked her on all platforms. We have not spoken since. Story 56. Best friend in high school who became my roommate in college. I met my now husband, and she never liked him but never told me why. She just slowly distanced herself. We eventually stopped talking altogether. I would love to know what she saw or did not see in him that made her completely check out. Story 57. My ex-best friend. I understand some reasons why she had to leave me, but I felt like these things would have been different if she had just talked to me. I didn't know any of these things were bothering her, but I just sent her a message and blocked her. It was a bad breakup. Story 58. My racist ex-best friend, who was part of a group of my 3 best friends, turned my closest friends against me, made fun of me for my skin color and ethnicity, tested a manipulation trick she read about online on me, and made 6 months of my life horrible. After we graduated from elementary school, she went to a different high school, and I never received an apology or even an acknowledgement of the pain she caused me. She just disappeared. Story 59. I was really good friends with one of the babysitters my parents hired. I lost touch with her the year before I entered high school. She had a big impact on my childhood. I wish I knew what happened to her and would love to thank her. Story 60. My aunt. I would like to know why she continues to fall out with my mother over a mobile game. She has held this grudge against our side of the family since my mother removed her from an online chat room connected to the game for making a xenophobic remark about a foreign woman in the chat. I understand that she felt hurt that family would turn against her, but this was 9 years ago, and it does not make any sense. The strangest thing is that she thinks she can take us to court over something so trivial, even though my mother did not break any laws and simply did not like how my aunt behaved in the chat. At least if she did somehow bring this to a courtroom, we would get some closure, and she would learn a hard lesson by being forced to pay the legal fees. Story 61. My older friend of 10 years, whom I had to cut off, would occasionally ask to show me some funny little roadside attraction or historical building. Over time, he became increasingly sexual, culminating in him asking for a hug deep in the secluded woods and whispering that he could feel my breasts on him. I played it off and nothing else happened, but I knew then that I could not go anywhere remote with him again. So I blocked him and have not seen him since. I would not have ghosted him otherwise, but I was homeless at the time and had no support network, so ghosting was necessary for safety. Almost certainly, it was just an inappropriate moment, and he never would have hurt me, but women do not have the luxury of taking that chance. I want closure on whether he was innocent or had bad intentions. He is about 65 and had a very physical farm life. It is possible this was the onset of dementia or cognitive decline from traumatic brain injuries. Right now, I am in the position of wondering whether I should hope my friend groped me or hope my friend has dementia. To tell the truth, dementia is so terrible, and I value my friend enough that I hope he groped me. But in any case, I wish I had closure. Story 62. An ex-boyfriend totally did me wrong but will never admit it. He has become quite narcissistic and is completely focused on himself. He thinks he served a purpose but does not realize the damage he caused in the process. I have moved on and found closure in my own way, not because of him in any way. Story 63. It has been so long that I do not think I need closure anymore from the person I would have said. I no longer believe they were coming from a good place. The newest one, but I do not really think much of them, and they have made it impossible to go back even if I saw where they were coming from. I left them to prevent myself from hating them. They became determined to make me hate them. So forget it. Story 64. The people who abused and traumatized me, I found more or less internal closure depending on the person. But there's one person in particular, a paramedic who sexually assaulted me during a seizure, where things feel different. It seemed like he might have genuinely suffered from what happened and was somehow eager to reflect and change. I don't know how real that was, but I find myself wishing I could understand why he did it and find a way to forgive him. Still, I don't see that happening unless he openly admits what he did, especially in front of the people who don't believe me and accuse me of making it up. And I know that's highly unlikely to ever happen. Then there are those who keep re-traumatizing me by denying what happened or suggesting I'm lying. Honestly, I find it even harder to imagine forgiving them, even though what they did might be considered less objectively harmful or malicious. But subjectively, their words hurt me even more. Over the past few years, I've thought a lot about what it would take for me to truly forgive, even though deep down I've always wanted to. I've realized that I need to understand why they did it and why they picked me. I need them to undo the consequences of their actions where possible. That includes coming forward and admitting what they did so the re-traumatization stops. Even though they can't undo the post-traumatic stress disorder, they can at least stop people from feeding it. I'm not sure if I'd need them to go to the police, but what would matter more to me is them telling their colleagues, because that would have a direct impact on my everyday life even if I would feel sorry for them to have to find out about it. I need them to take serious steps to make sure it never happens again. That means figuring out what led to it, learning how to deal with those underlying issues differently, and probably leaving their job to remove the opportunity and temptation to repeat it in a professional setting. I know all of this is close to impossible, but it's been my biggest, deepest wish for years. In my darkest moments, just imagining this scenario sometimes kept me alive and stopped me from trying to end my life again. Thoughts are free, and hope dies last. Story 65. A friend from college. We were very close during our last year, hanging out almost daily. In the last week of school, he was accused by 3 people of sexual assault. I do not believe it involved penetration. I spoke with 2 of the 3 victims, and we all had classes together. I continued to spend time with him that week, but stopped contacting him after graduation when we all moved away. I think about him often and wish I had asked for his side of the story. Sexual assault is a serious matter, and there was a reason I ended our connection, but it is difficult when a close friend is accused. Story 66. My wife. I would love for her to sign the divorce papers already. It has been more than 5 years. Story 67. My ex-wife left our life together 2 years ago for a man she had known for only a few months. I don't think I will ever understand the real reason why she did what she did to our family. Story 68. My dad. We have a broken relationship, and I don't think he realizes it at all. He's a narcissist, and I feel torn between not wanting a relationship with him and knowing I'll regret that when he dies. I wish I could figure out our relationship and get closure for myself. Story 69. My aunt became sick and quickly passed away when hospitals allowed only one immediate family member in the room. I had not seen or spoken to her in over a year. My uncle is remarried now and has quickly removed all traces of her from his life. Recently, he refuses to use the childhood nickname that he and my aunt used to call me because I am now an adult and should be spoken to accordingly. After my aunt died, he is the only one left who used that nickname, and it makes me very sad to lose another connection to her. I just want a chance to talk to her, hear her call me that again, hug her, and tell her that I love her. Story 70. This happened to me as well. I asked what happened, and they said they were busy. We were not really close friends, I thought, and then suddenly I was ghosted by them. It is weird. Story 71. A close friend helped me with my final project in high school. I was extremely passionate about it, and he told me he would do everything in his power to make sure we finished it. After we graduated, he suddenly stopped talking to me. A friend told me that I had to give him a reason to talk to him. I had speculation as to why he stopped, but I could never have it confirmed. It bothered me for a couple of years, but I have moved past it. I still appreciate him to this day for helping me with my project. I do hope someday I learn the real reason why we stopped being friends. Story 72. A woman I was interested in among my friends seemed to reciprocate but then vanished from contact with all of us for several weeks. She later showed up in a different group of friends that included one of our mutual friends, and she used a completely different name and identity. At this point, I just want to know what the intention was and why she was leading me on in the first place, since she did not gain anything from me in terms of a scam. Story 73. My now ex. I just want clarity on what shifted so quickly in our relationship that he broke up with me in a text message after things were going well. His breakup text was not clear about the breakdown of our relationship, only that he felt stressed, which was never communicated until the breakup message. There was no chance to fix anything or reconcile. He was just gone like that. Story 74. The girl who broke up with me without explanation revealed a year later that when she started dating me, she was already dating someone else who was abusing her. I will never know if she truly liked me or was using me as an escape from him. I have doubted every relationship since that day of realization, including friendships. Story 75. Someone I can never get closure from. If I ever talk to her again, it means what she did for me did not matter, and it really did. I just hope she is living her absolute best life. Story 76. My ex-girlfriend, whom I ended things with because of her male friend. I would apologize to her for anything I said or did that was wrong. I would also seek closure from a female friend who admitted to my older brother that she started falling for me after I first met her. I would give her a tight hug and wish her the best in her marriage. Story 77. My stepfather was a huge influence on my life. I would not be where I am today without him. As I got older, we would fight, but he was always the only one who called me out and kept me accountable. My mother and he separated last year, and they are now divorced. He has just dropped me like a stone from a great height. I have tried to reach out, but he either does not respond or gives me one-word answers. I turned 30 this year, and the thing that hurt the most was getting nothing from him. When he was called out on it, not by me, his response was, I did not know what to get him, which would be okay if he had not raised me from age 7. I would like to find out why he chose to go down this path. Story 78. My recent love interest, I just want to know where we stand right now. My overthinking is driving me crazy. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.